You have to make enjoyment a priority, but you're not.
You need to make enjoyment a priority, but you've not. If you're struggling to figure out the science of success, because it is a science as beautifully articulated in that episode, or if you're struggling to even just identify the feeling of fulfillment, what actually drives you? What is your why? Why are you doing it? What is your purpose? Let me break down both. Let me break down the difference between push and pull. Let me break down also what I've experienced in my time. My experience as a 36-year-old, a guy that's been on the quest for the last 16 years, and what I've learned. So let's just start firstly with what is push and what is pull. What I've come to learn is when you first want to make something of yourself, let's just say you're a young man or you're a young entrepreneurial woman and you're setting out to build financial freedom. Let's be real, that's generally where it starts. So building out a name for yourself, building out some sort of purpose, some foundation, form of stability, your journey will start by pushing. You're going to push to work on yourself. You're going to push to develop yourself. You're going to push to upskill. You're going to push to learn. You're going to push to start that first business. You're going to push thinking that first business is going to make you all those millions, hopefully, and you're going to realize the truth that usually it's that failure of that first business that gives you beautiful lessons that leads to the next and leads to the next and leads to the next. And then an overnight success takes years. Your breakthrough business might be business number 3. It might be business number 33. That is the art of push. This continual push where you then really adopt the mindset, the mentality of Alex Hormozi. You craft and identify your science to success. What inputs create the outputs you require and how those outputs can be organized and structured to design the life that you envision or design your definition of freedom. So that's the art form of push. Somewhere along the way, you'll start to question, this little voice will appear and start asking why. What's the point of all of this? Why am I even pushing? And this is where the path of the pull comes in. And honestly, there's a lot of people that don't even take this entrepreneurial route. Maybe you're a 9-to-5er, maybe you've been working a job, maybe you've been doing this for the last 10 years. And that itself has been your push. But now you're starting to question, why am I doing this? Am I being pulled towards business? What is this pull? I feel like I was made for more, but how do I even do more? I don't even know where to start. Maybe I should start by asking myself the deep questions. Maybe I need to go on this retreat. Maybe I need to do this course, this program. Maybe I need a mentor, a life coach. Maybe I need to connect deeper to faith. Maybe I need to build a relationship with God. Maybe I need to go to church, back to the temple. And this pull inwards is something that is led by the heart, whereas the push is led by the mind. You will find that your sweet spot is when both are symbiotically dancing with each other. You're going to have seasons of pushing. You're going to have seasons of pulling. You're going to find that the pull, for example, literally pulls you in a direction, opens up the way, but then it requires you to push in that direction and really pave that way. So if there's anything you can get from this right now, if there's anything where you could watch this video and I'm not just stating the fucking obvious, start with your pull. Literally ask yourself this question, which is the question that started my journey, my pull, gave me that fire and that reason and that foundation enough for me to push. And that is, what am I willing to die for? What am I willing to live for? Honestly, in the beginning, it was making my dad proud after I had lost my mom. And that took me to a certain length until I started to notice my flame dwindle, my fire sort of phase out. And I had to ask myself again, all right, why? What's my why now? I've gone through so much, I've evolved as a person, I've pushed, but now my pull is quite weak. So asking myself that question yet again, what am I willing to die for? And therefore, what am I willing to live for? It then evolved into doing my community proud and setting an example for other people who are in their early stages and felt lost like I once did. That took me so far. And then a bigger vision to now help the world, to gamify education and self-development, to create a platform that allows that to impact 2 billion lives. And that was the dance for me. As I identified what my pull was, it gave me fuel to push. And through that push, I became a better entrepreneur, a better human, a better vision of myself. I crafted another component in my own science to success. I added another piece to that equation, and then I started to hit a standstill, which was time for me to revisit my pull, work on myself, upskill, answer those deep questions, find my why, and then it just kept happening over and over again. And for me, that looked like civil engineering job, revisit my why. Personal trainer, revisit my why. Booked out personal trainer with a couple of different side hustles, revisit my why. Breakthrough tech entrepreneur, evaluated idea, pre-revenue at $1 million, revisit my why. Online high ticket coach, my first $100,000 month, $250,000 in my first quarter, revisit my why. Continually led me, back to tech entrepreneurship, Dubai, etc. Revisit my why. Consulting firm, revisit my why. And you're going to notice I'm literally creating an infinity symbol because there is no end to this journey. There's no destination you're going to arrive at. You may have heard this quote before that the journey itself is the destination, and that is what we're looking for. That is the definition of life. Like, life is literally from the moment you start living, you're born up until the end. You're not going to reach this point where you've completed life, because at every milestone, there's going to be a next. If you've set your eyes on $1 million and you achieve that, the next thing is what is going to challenge me from there. So honestly, this is all you really need to know. And more importantly, this is all you need to accept, that there is no finish line. And that's a very difficult thing to accept when you are fueled on trauma, you're fueled on suffering, you're fueled on an interesting upbringing, a heartbreak, whatever it is, the loss of a parent, the abuse, the addictions, and you're looking for this, the glory land where you're going to finally arrive at this place and you're going to finally be happy, to only realize that the finish line continually gets further and further. And it's not a bad thing. Eventually, you will realize that the journey itself was what you were looking for, because the journey is a reason to live. The journey is the purpose. The journey is life. These continual seasons of pushing and pulling. So take what you may from this. Beautiful podcast from Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins. I highly suggest now rewatching that and taking it in with this layer of perspective. And if you found this valuable, share this with one friend. Check out my other videos. If you want to learn more about what I do, check out my website in the bio to work with me. And until the next one, peace.